power, but they are. For the ST cars that I drive, it's a little bit lower horsepower, so it's a bit more of momentum than it is a power game. But the racing in there is also very competitive. But in terms of comparing the GS Mustang to this, I'd say they're pretty comparable. But Chris and I were having a conversation earlier about the components and how they were designed to make the Ford FR500S so special. And every component on that car, for the most part, from the outside sources, whether it be suspension or brakes, came from a company that sat down and designed that component for that car specifically.
Yeah.
Which really, really does a lot towards making it something that's incredibly fun and easy to drive.
Okay, so we got one car that is an FR500C, and we got the FR500S. And there's a price difference. What is it, about $70,000 between the cars, something like that? Is that about right?
Around 50, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, $50,000, but it's a lot more expensive to run the Coney car because their races are longer, so they have a pit stop, and some of their components are a lot more expensive. And by allowing them to make changes in the car and opening it up, whether that's a particular suspension component, that always drives the price up. When you tell someone it has to be this one specific part, that kind of restricts the amount of money that they're going to spend.
Yeah. So you got a more sophisticated engine in the C car as well. Let's take a look at another series, and I'm kind of curious about this because you've run Speed World Challenge and you've run Speed World Challenge, and I think you've run Grand Am, right? And
right.
How would you compare those series? I mean, as far from my standpoint, a Speed World Challenge car, if you're going to build a Mike Davis car, Brandon Davis car, you're going to be spending a lot of money to get that car together. How much more speed do you have than these cars?
Depends on the track, but it is another significant step. One of the things the World Challenge has that's a disadvantage compared to like a GS car is they're running on a DOT tire, where I think the GS cars are running on slicks now. Mm-hmm. So they're built as two different things. The World Challenge cars are sprint races, so it is bonsai for 1 hour. And although the Coney Challenge or the Rolex series are also doing endurance races, they're almost, the level of competition has raised so much that they become a 3 or 6 hour sprint race. I mean, you're all out. Even though you're trying to make the car last, that becomes the next level of expense because of the preparation. You have to have the stuff. You can't wait for it to break. It's not, AAA, you don't call them out. You got to make sure that the car is there at the end, and you have to finish in order to win.
Yeah, that's a big difference too amongst the series that we mentioned. With the Mustang Challenge, it's a spec racing series. World Challenge, it's a little bit different. It's not so much.
It's kind of open. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of driving a Mustang, a Corvette, and a Porsche in World Challenge over the years, and they all have different levels. And the Porsche's got phenomenal brakes and a really nice balance, but it had the least horsepower in the field, with the 3.6 making, I think, about 400 horse at the wheels. And then you got an 8.5 liter or 8 liter Viper, and you got a 6 liter Corvette, and you got a turbocharged Volvo. I mean, that series is really, it's amazing that they can take such a diversity of cars and still make the racing tight and competitive. And it's definitely not a job I'd want.
One thing I've liked about that, I watch that series when I can, and it's a made-for-TV series. I mean, it's a 1 hour series. It's designed to be marketed on television, and that's the whole purpose of that thing. Mm-hmm. But I gotta agree, it's really kind of cool. I was at Infineon for the NASCAR race, and they ran before that race. How cool is it to watch a Cadillac and a Viper and a Porsche
and a Volvo
flying through those S's?
It is impressive.
Well,
go ahead.
It is kind of comparing apples and pomegranates.
I know.
And I think that the philosophy on it was they really wanted to have a world challenge. They wanted to bring cars in from exotic places. And the interesting thing is that the Americans, with things like the Cadillac involved in it, it really has put some spice to it. It's almost a surprise that it isn't more popular, but it is atrociously expensive to run cars, especially, one of the things that's made the Mustang so popular is the fact that there now is a significant amount of aftermarket support for it. And so just the same thing that made the Camaro so popular in the late 60s and 70s and even into the 80s was the fact that everybody raced a Camaro, and you could buy parts everywhere for a Camaro.
That's
And
another
that's-
thing that makes it affordable. You know,
Exactly.
The fact that you can get parts from so many different suppliers, it also allows some creativity.
Yeah.
No, I
And,
get a
and
good
even
one.
Paul's car, or even Paul's race car, is the components that